So there is a new bulletin out on the new Ford Explorers from 20, what is it? It said September 17th of 2020 to September 23rd of 2021. Replace the front drive shaft on the Broncos. I say Explorer Bronco. On the Broncos because it says the rubber that is used on the front drive shafts on the eccentric is not robust enough for normal on-road use. I just did my first one at 19,000 miles, and the bulletin calls for removing the transfer case shield underneath and replacing the four bolts, and then dropping the sway bar, replacing the bolts and stuff that goes for the sway bar. And I'm like, what the heck is all this? Why is Ford even putting any of this crap on here? You don't have to do any of that to replace this drive shaft. You literally, I think it's like a T45 or something like that, T40, T45, and it's those double strap bolts in the front and the rear, and then you torque it to 21 foot-pounds plus 120 degrees, which comes right out to about 40 foot-pounds total. And the drive shaft actually comes with the bolts in the drive shaft out of the box. All you do is pull the bolts out one side, pull the bolts out the other side. Take a flat blade screwdriver and catch the indentations in the pinion yoke. Push out the front eccentric. Pull it back, slide it off to the side, slide the drive shaft forward, and it falls right out of the truck. I sometimes have to question whether or not the reason they're putting all these extra nuts and bolts and all this stuff in there is because they're trying to purposely create a shortage. There's none of that stuff that even has to be done to remove that drive shaft, but yet in that bulletin they're telling you to replace all that stuff. For what? There's no reason to even remove it. It's a big, giant, gaping, wide open hole. So I took all the hardware, I threw it right back in the box and turned it in. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not replacing a bunch of stuff and removing a bunch of stuff that's completely unnecessary to do. Whatever engineer or whoever came up with that pinpoint test or how to is a complete moron. There's no reason to do that stuff. It's just wide open. Let me see if I can find the SSM for you guys real quick. Alright, so here we go, October 12th, 2022. This is a customer satisfaction program 22B27. Here is your build date. Bronco 21 year, September 23rd, 2020 through September 17, 2021. Sorry, I was a little wrong with the date. Reason for this program: in the affected vehicle, the front drive shaft constant velocity joint boot material is not robust. This application may fail under normal vehicle usage. A failed CV joint boot may result in loss of grease and the accumulation of debris in the CV joint, leading to noise and or vibration while driving. Service action: dealers are to replace the drive shaft. To replace the front drive shaft, you get 0.9 if you have an electronic front stabilizer disconnect, which I can see probably removing something on that one, but even at that, that's a stretch. And then replace front drive shaft on a standard stabilizer bar, which is just nuts and bolts. No electronic disconnect in between, 0.8 hours, and then here's your part numbers on the bottom. And here is the rest of your part numbers. So this is basically, in a nutshell, front drive shaft replacement from September of 20 to September of 21 on the Broncos, because the rubber on the drive shaft is basically crap, no good for normal usage. So here is the PDF file for the technician side. Certain 21-year model Broncos front drive shafts. I apologize for my TikTok notifications popping up. A lot of this stuff doesn't even apply. I just put the vehicle right on the rack, lifted it up in the air. This little piece right here where it talks about removing this, that wasn't even on my vehicle, so I didn't have to do that. That blue. Disconnect the stabilizer, disconnect assembly, electrical connectors. That wasn't on mine, but it's simple enough if you have a stabilizer disconnect. And then using a jack stand, support the stabilizer bar. See figure 3, 4. And they're just talking about putting it right up underneath it right there like that. But even at that, I still wouldn't have to do it. The sway bar doesn't even get in the way. So, and then here it talks about loosening those bolts so you can drop it down. But again, I don't even see why you have to do that. There's no reason to even do that. The one that I took out, even with that being as low as it is right there with that stabilizer disconnect, doesn't even look like it would interfere. Here's a regular sway bar. It shows taking the nuts and stuff out. Again, not necessary. You can just pull that front drive shaft off and slide it right to the right, and then slide the assembly forward and drop it right out. And here it shows on both sides, remove and discard the stabilizer bracket bar mounting stud, but if you don't take it out, you don't have to replace it. And there's your stage 1 21 foot-pounds for the bolt torque on the drive shaft, and 120 degrees after. Same thing here. And on my drive shaft, there was a yellow mark on the shaft, and then there was a yellow mark towards the front differential. And I actually lined those back up where the old one was as well. Probably not necessary, but I went ahead and did it anyway. I left marks for myself to know where to put the new drive shaft back. There. When installing the new front drive shaft, make sure the alignment dots on both the flange and the drive shaft line up, or the drive shaft vibration post repair may occur. I do that no matter what, but I've seen guys actually install these without lining those up and nothing ever happens. But anyway, again, I made sure the yellow dot right there on the eccentric was lined up with that on the shaft, and also I left a yellow mark on my pinion flange so I knew exactly where to put it back. And that's it. It is kind of silly the way they tell you to replace all that stuff, and it's not even necessary to take that stuff off. So that's why I question sometimes who's writing these pinpoint tests or who's writing these removal and installations. It is very, very apparent that the guys writing this stuff has never turned a wrench a day in their life, or if they have, they were so sorry at it they just were not going to cut it being a technician. Because a lot of the things that I've been reading lately from this new crew of engineers or people writing these recalls and stuff, it's atrocious. It's like wasting money purposely to make the company go into shortages on things that don't even need to be replaced. It's like throwing money away. When I did this, literally I looked at it and I was like, what? Well, why would I have to remove? This is stupid. My boss was standing right there and I was like, look at this, just stand here for a second. Bzz, 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 bzz. Took the one loose on one side, went back to the front at the differential. Bzz, 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 bzz. Took that loose, got my screwdriver, stuck it in the front of the eccentric, pushed it back, moved the bellow back, slid it over to the side, went back to the transfer case, stuck I have a pretty decent sized arm up through the hole where the shield is at, grabbed the eccentric, pushed it forward because it was already coming out, slid the drive shaft right out, right onto the ground. Who the hell comes up with this stuff? Anyhow, 22B27 Bronco rubber, not robust enough for normal on-road use. Get yours checked out if that shows active on your Oasis. 22B27. Call up your local dealer if you have a 21 Bronco. See if you got it on your Oasis report or your Ford Pass app. Y'all be blessed. Take care. Have a great day.